Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how I put together the mini folders for the Graphic 45 Time to Flourish project I made a few days ago. Here's a quick review on what the folder looks like. There's a spine, back pocket, pocket on the inside, clips down, got a pocket on the bottom, and then the ability to add photo or photo mat on the right hand side. So let's go ahead and get started. For this project you'll need a piece of cardstock that's cut 6 1/4 by 8 3/4, and what you're going to want to do is score that at 4 1/4 and 4 1/2 to get your spine. You want to make sure you burnish your score lines. And that's going to be your folder. You just want to make sure if you do use a double-sided paper that your pattern's going in the right direction on the inside as well as the outside. Then you're going to want a piece of cardstock that's cut 4 1/8 by 11, and you want to score that at 4 1/4 and 8 1/2. And you're going to want to burnish those as well, those score lines as well. Burnish that really good because you want that pocket. You want that pocket to line up, and not only that, you also want it to lay flat in your folder. So that's going to be your pocket. And again, if you're using double-sided paper, make sure you have it going in the direction that you want it to go. So we're done with our scoring tool. The next thing you want to do is make sure you have your magnets placed. So I'm using basic gray magnets. So you want to go ahead and take off that adhesive on one of the magnets. Keep them kissed together. I have them kissed together there. Find out where you want them placed. And I placed it on that smaller flap. Fold it down. Oops, forgot to take the adhesive off the other side. Fold it down. And that way, you know your pocket is going to hit those magnets right on. Okay. Now you can add your photo mats. I mean your mats for your flaps. And what you're going to do is cut 2 pieces of cardstock that are 2 1/4 by 3 7/8. So you want to cut 2 of these. 2 1/4 by 3 7/8. And I think I have, I'm missing, make sure I have 2 cut out here. And I do. And then for this one, I'm going to use my Crocodile scallop edge punch. For the outside of the flap, I'm only going to punch 2 of the corners. And for the inside of the flap, I'm going to punch all 4 corners. And that'll be the inside, and this will be the outside. For the front flap, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that's cut 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and that will go right here. Then you'll need a piece of cardstock also cut at 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and for this tutorial I'm going to use this solid piece. You're going to need a piece of cardstock that is cut 1 inch by 3 7/8, And that is going to be for your mini pocket down at the bottom. And I have decided, since I'm using double-sided paper, I'm not going to mat the center. But if you were going to mat the center, you will need a third piece of cardstock cut at 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. So let's get these pieces adhered to our pocket. I am going to use liquid glue today. You can use whatever adhesive you would like. I can tell you that there is an additional step I do to make sure that those magnets don't move after I put the mats down, is I take a couple of small pieces of scoring tape and I put that on the magnets, and I'm going to peel it off when I lay my mat down. So you want to just make sure, I don't want those magnets to shift underneath my mat, so I'm going to peel off the paper here. A little tricky. So then I'm going to add my glue, and today I'm using Aleene's Tacky Glue. And if I didn't mention it, I'm using Graphic 45's Sun Kiss paper collection. So again, you want to make sure your paper is going the right direction. You want to lay that down. And you want to make sure you're careful not to over press or burnish where you put that magnet, because you don't want to put a hole through your paper. And I like to take my bone folder to press those edges down, so you'll get a nice adherent to your cardstock. So that's the outside, and then the inside flap, you're going to glue that down. Not too much glue. You don't want it to, you want to kind of center that. I'll open it up so you can see where I'm centering that. And again, you want to make sure that's adhered down, being mindful that your magnet is down there, so you don't want to over burnish and punch a hole through your paper. So for the inside, I'm going to take my 3 7/8 by 3 7/8 piece of cardstock, and I'm going to put glue to glue it down. Making sure that I am centering this. Okay. Oops, I'm a little off camera. Sorry about that. Making sure that I am centered. Let's go right here. And then I'm going to take my 1 inch by 3 7/8 piece, and I'm going to glue that down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it down just a small bead, because you want your photo mat to fit in the pocket. Just a small bead, I don't know if you can see that, of glue on 3 sides, leaving one side open. You're going to lay that down. And it should line up with that 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, piece of cardstock. Let me get that to come over a little bit. There you go. All right. And you want to make sure this is dry if you're using wet adhesive before you put your mat in the pocket, otherwise your mat's going to stick. For that mat, you want a 3 1/2 by 3 1/2 piece of cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and round my corners with my scallop punch. And I'm going to gently put that in there right now because it's a little wet. So that's your pocket, your little mini inside pocket. Now what I decided to do for this center pocket, the center piece here, instead of putting a photo mat. And again, a mat, if you want to put a mat down, you're going to cut another 3 7/8 by 3 7/8 piece of cardstock. I have a white one here, so that'll fit right there. 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. But I decided I'm going to put a journaling card here instead. So I'm just going to adhere this journaling card from the collection right down in that center. So I'm just going to center this here and line it up with that orange piece of cardstock at the bottom so that I would have a place to write a message or a sentiment. I took it one more step further, and I took one of those stickers from the collection and I matted it on a piece of cream cardstock. I'm using a foam square, and I want to put this right on the bottom edge of my 1 inch by 3 7/8 inch pocket that I made without interfering with that tag. And you want to, when you lay this down, you want to make sure that your pop dot and your embellishment is not overlapping here, because then you'll see it on the other side and your pocket may not close. So when you fold it up, that is what it looks like. So let's go ahead and mat the outside of our pocket, which I don't think I cut. So let me go ahead and cut a piece of cardstock that will fit. Oh, here it is right here. Sorry, forgot it. Let's go ahead and adhere that. So you're going to put a little bit of glue all the way around, not too much, and that'll go in the front. You want to lay that down. There. Making sure that it's even. And let's be careful now that your magnet's on the other side in between, so you just want to make sure you get those edges burnished down. So now this is what your pocket look like. You don't want to do anything on this side because that's what's going to go down on your folder. So to adhere this to the folder, you can use double-sided sticky tape. I would use a narrow piece of score tape or whatever double-sided tape you use. I would use a very thin one. You could do a 1/4 inch wide. The main thing you want to do is be able to put your tag, and let me show you with my Time to Flourish one. You want to be able to put a tag in here. So if you're too wide in here, you're going to have to cut your tag narrow. But for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use wet glue. And what I'm going to do is just put a very thin bead of wet glue on 3 sides, the bottom and the 2 sides of my pocket. I'm going to line up my pocket so it's just inside the bottom of the card and just to the left of the score line. And I'm going to show you here after I lay this down for a minute. You want to make sure, here's your folded line here for your spine. You want to make sure you're inside of that so that when you fold your card closed, the card is not going to bulk up or be too far over onto that score line, and then your spine will be offline, so off kilter. So you just want to burnish those 3 sides, making sure again that you've adhered that pocket to the back of your folder or the inside of your folder. just like that. And you see how it closes nicely? All right, to make the tag for the inside of the pocket, I took a piece of cardstock that is cut 3.5 by 5, and I am going to round my corners with my scallop punch. And you want to make sure your wet glue is dry before you stick your tag in there, otherwise you won't be able to get your tag out. So once again, that is the inside pocket for the folder on the left hand side. On the right hand side, I am going to use one of the little mini journaling tags that came with the collection, and I'm just going to adhere that to the right hand side of my folder. I think I'm going to use this side. So to do that, I'm just going to put a small bead of glue down one side and another side, like an upside down L. And this time I want it to go here instead of that outer edge. I want and you don't want to go up to that score line. Again, you want to be able to close the pocket. You want to line it up so that you have one side that is open. And let me show you with this little piece of, you want that side to be open, so you want to let that dry before you stick something behind it. Now let's work on the back and the front. And for that, I am going to use some additional elements, which are the larger postcards. Let's see which I'm going to use. This one for the back. And I think I'm going to use this one for the front. So for the front of the card, you can just go ahead and glue that completely down because we're not making a pocket out of that. So I know it's a shame to cover that up, right? But there's more in the additional elements, so not to fear. If you've got it, you can go ahead and use this. I think this sun-kissed paper is just so beautiful. I love the colors. I love the graphics on it. You want to just make sure you got those sides down really nice and even. Now for the back card, I did make a pocket, and I made the pocket by using my Stampin' Up! Oval punch, 2" by 1 3/8, 2" by 1 3/8. And all I did was just take and decide where I'm going to make that punch, making sure I've kind of have it even and centered. And I just punched it like that. Then I took, again, a small bead of glue on 3 sides, making sure I didn't go too far in because I want to be able to put my tag in the pocket. And you want to line it up and make sure that you are even with that front photo mat for the front side of the folder. And you want to burnish and clean up any wet glue that may come out. You want to make sure that you burnish that down really well. For the tag that goes in the back, you're going to want a piece of cardstock that's 3 1/4 by 5 1/2 and 3 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to go ahead and scallop punch the corners 2 at the bottom, and then I'm going to use my EK punch to punch the top of the tag. And you can use whatever punch or not punch or however you want to do yours, but this I thought would look really nice with the folder that I'm making for you on this tutorial. So there's the tag. And again, if you're using wet glue, you want to make sure your glue is dry before you set your tag in your pocket. Otherwise, your tag's going to stick. So there you have it. Front, back pocket, inside. You open it out. And again, if this is dry, and I'll use it with this tag, you can stick a tag in the pocket, the little open pocket. I want to also show you 2 other cards that I made from the collection earlier. So here's that one. I did a little something different on the inside of this one. This, I took part of the cut-aparts in the paper collection and I mounted it twice. So this strip, and then I matted it on a piece of blue from the collection, and then orange for my pocket. And then I popped it up with some foam squares. That's that back. And then on this one, I made a little tag here using some of the cut-aparts from the additional pieces in the collection. I also took one of the cut-aparts, left one side open, and made a mat for the middle. And then I popped up another cut-apart on my pocket for the little 1 inch by 3 7/8 inch pocket on the inside of the card, and that is the back. So there you have it, the folders I created for the Graphic 45 Time to Flourish project. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.